So now let's talk Amazon RDS Proxy. So we know we can deploy our RDS database within our VPC, but now we can also deploy a fully managed database proxy for RDS. So you may say, okay, we can access our RDS database directly. Why do we need a proxy to access our database? Well, if you use an Amazon RDS proxy, this will allow you, your application, to pool and share the database connections established with the database. So instead of having every single application connect to your RDS database instance, they will be instead connecting to the proxy, and the proxy will pool these connections together into less connections to the RDS database instance. So why may you do this? Well, this makes a lot of sense if you have a lot of connections into your RDS database instance, and it's going to improve your database efficiency by reducing the stress on database resources, for example, CPU and RAM, and also minimize the open connections and the timeouts into your database. So that's one thing you need to look out for from the exam perspective. Now, as I said, the RDS proxy is fully serverless. It's auto-scaling, so you don't need to manage its capacity, and it's highly available. It's across multiple AZ. And therefore, in case, for example, there is a failover that happens on your RDS database instance, for example, it goes from the primary instance to the standby instance, then it will, thanks to the RDS proxy, reduce the failover time by up to 66%. So this is true for RDS and Aurora. So again, instead of having all your applications connect to the main RDS database instance and then handle the failover themselves, they will just connect to the RDS proxy, which does not know any failover, and the RDS proxy will itself handle the failover of the RDS database instance, therefore improving your failover time. So something else you need to look for from an exam perspective. So the RDS proxy supports RDS for MySQL, PostgreSQL, MyRDB, and also it supports Aurora for MySQL and PostgreSQL. It doesn't require you to do any code change in your application. Just instead of connecting to your RDS database instance or your Aurora database, you now just connect to your RDS proxy and you are done. On top of it, there's a third advantage to using an RDS proxy. It is to enforce IAM authentication for your database, so to make sure that people can only connect to your RDS database instance using IAM. And then these credentials can be securely stored in another service called the AWS Secrets Manager. So again, if you need to see a way to enforce IAM authentication for your database, think RDS proxy. And finally, the RDS proxy is never publicly accessible. So it's only accessible from within your VPC. So you cannot connect over the internet to your RDS proxy, which is enhanced security. And so one service we haven't seen that is going for sure to be very helped by the RDS proxy is called the Lambda functions. And the Lambda functions, they will execute pieces of code. We'll see them later on in this course. Okay, you don't need to know them right now, but we have to tackle them right now because of the RDS proxy feature. And so the Lambda functions, they can multiply many times, and they will appear and disappear very, very fast. And therefore, imagine you have 100 or 1,000 Lambda functions appearing and disappearing just like that and opening up connections into your RDS database instance. There will be a big problem because it will leave open connections and timeouts, and it will be a mess. And therefore, what you do is that you use the RDS proxy to pool connections for your Lambda functions, and then the Lambda functions will overload the RDS proxy, but it's meant to be overload, and the RDS proxy will pool these connections into less connections to the RDS database instance, thus solving your problems, okay? So that's it for this lecture. I hope you liked it, and don't worry, we'll review the proxy once again once we go into the Lambda lectures. But again, RDS proxy is used to minimize and pool connections on your RDS database instance. It's also used to minimize failover time and reduce it by up to 66%. And also it's used to enforce IAM authentication for your database and to securely store its credentials in the Secrets Manager service. All right, that's it. I hope you liked it, and I will see you in the next lecture.